My dad gifted my first car to my stepbrother. When I asked why, he said, he respects family more than you do. So I stopped respecting his mortgage. Good luck with the refinancing, Charles. I swear my hands were shaking so hard I couldn't even unlock my phone. Not from fear. Not even rage, really. Just that kind of surreal, spiraling disbelief when someone betrays you so blatantly it knocks the air out of your lungs. So here's how it started. 2 weeks ago, 19 million, was supposed to get my first car. Nothing fancy, just a used Honda Civic my dad promised me since I was 16. We'd been working on it together in his garage. I picked the navy blue paint. I paid for half the new tires from my summer job. He taught me how to change the oil, swap out the brakes. The whole thing was a bonding project, supposedly. He'd say stuff like, "This'll be yours soon enough, kid," with that proud dad smirk like we were in some corny movie. And yeah, we had our issues. My dad, Charles, 53 million, married my stepmom when I was 13. She had a son, Landon, 17 million, who moved in with us a few months later. And from day one, it was clear that in my dad's eyes, Landon could do no wrong. The kid was a whiny little manipulator with this whole lost boy act that worked like a damn charm. He'd screw up and cry about how hard it was losing his real dad, who, by the way, dipped when Landon was 2, and everyone would rally around him like he was made of glass. Meanwhile, I got told to man up if I showed even a flicker of emotion. But fine, whatever. I played the good son. I kept my head down, did my chores, worked part-time at the grocery store, saved my paychecks, and kept that Civic running like it was my own heart. Cut to 2 weeks ago. My dad calls a family meeting in the living room. I come down thinking maybe he's got news about college money or something serious. Landon's already sitting there, arms crossed and smirking like he knows something I don't. That's when my dad says it. We've decided that it makes more sense for Landon to have the Civic. He's more responsible with family priorities, and frankly, he respects family more than you do. My mouth literally dropped open. I laughed. I thought he was joking. You mean the car I helped rebuild? The one we agreed was mine after graduation? He didn't even flinch. That was before you started pulling away from this family. I asked what that meant, pulling away. You know what he said? You never go to Landon's football games. You spend too much time in your room. You never try to bond with your stepbrother. Landon sees this family as a unit. You act like you're just stuck here. Like I'm the problem for not kissing the ass of the kid who once told people I was just the leftover from a failed marriage. I stared at my dad, the man I used to build Lego sets with, who came to every one of my swim meets until I was 14 and suddenly stopped showing up when Landon made JV football. And I just said, "So because I don't pretend Landon's my best friend, you're taking my car?" He looked me dead in the eye and said, "You need to learn that loyalty is earned with loyalty." He's earned it. I don't remember going back to my room. I don't even remember shutting the door. But I remember staring at the Civic through the window. I watched Landon get in the next day, rev the engine like it was a toy, and peel out of the driveway like a toddler who just got a new Hot Wheels. And that's when it hit me. If loyalty is transactional to Charles, then so is respect. And if I'm not his son in that garage anymore, then he's not my dad on that mortgage anymore. Good luck with the refinancing, Charles. I hope you like learning the hard way. The first time I skipped a rent transfer, it felt like a punch in the gut. Not because I felt guilty, hell no, but because I knew what kind of storm it would trigger. And part of me still had that tiny, pathetic sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, he'd realize how wrong he'd been. That maybe this would be the wake-up call. Instead, he doubled down, like always. For context, I've been paying $600 a month toward our mortgage since I was 18. Not rent, mortgage. My dad framed it as teaching me responsibility, said he was helping me build real-world credit. But turns out, my name's not on anything. Not the deed, not the credit, not the tax forms. I was basically a glorified roommate with chores. When I brought that up last year, he laughed and said, "You think you deserve equity for living in your own damn house?" So yeah, when I saw Landon post a picture on Instagram of my Civic, captioned, "Finally got what I deserved," I canceled the auto payment, right then and there, and I smiled while doing it. It took exactly 12 days for Charles to notice. I was at work stocking shelves when I got the first call. Didn't answer. He left a voicemail. "Hey bud, looks like there was an issue with the account this month. Can you check on that? Thanks." 2 days later, I got a text. "Need to talk. This is serious." Oh, now it's serious? I came home that night and the energy was already weird. Landon was sprawled out on the couch in my hoodie. Yeah, he straight up steals my clothes now, with his gross bare feet on the coffee table like he owned the place. My dad was sitting stiffly in his recliner, hands clasped like he was about to give a sermon. "Sit down," he said, not even looking at me. I stayed standing. "You need something?" He sighed. "Don't play games with me. I noticed you didn't pay your share." I tilted my head. "Oh, you mean the share for the house I have no legal rights to? The one you told me I don't belong to because I don't respect family?" His jaw tightened. "That car was mine to give. You don't get to punish this family because of your attitude." Landon piped up, "Of course. Dude, you're being such a baby. It's just a car. You're acting like dad burned down your childhood home or something. No, I said calmly. He just gave away the one thing that was mine. After promising it to me for 3 years. That's not burning down my childhood. That's flipping it off and giving the ashes to you. My dad stood up. That's enough. And for the first time in my life, I didn't flinch. You made it clear I'm not part of this family. So I stopped contributing like I was. His face turned red. You think this house pays for itself? You think loyalty pays for itself? I shot back. He exploded. Not physically, yet, but his voice went full drill sergeant. You ungrateful little, this house gave you a roof, food, everything. And you turn your back because of a car? No, I said, grabbing my backpack off the floor. Because of the truth. You picked favorites, and you picked wrong. And then, just for the cherry on top, I added, I hope the bank's nicer to you than you were to me. That was the last civil conversation we had. He changed the Wi-Fi password that night. Childish. I used my hotspot. He took the garage remote out of my bag. I waited till he left for work and changed the keypad code. And Landon? Oh, he started getting bold. He keyed my bedroom door, took a dump and didn't flush in my bathroom, played loud music at 2 a.m. like it was a dorm. They declared war, and I started planning my counterattack, brick by brick, because if they wanted to treat me like I didn't belong in that house, I'd make damn sure the house didn't belong to them either. I started small, subtle, just enough to shift the ground beneath their feet without them realizing it right away. First, I disconnected the Nest thermostat from the app. My dad had this whole smart home obsession, always bragging to his buddies about how he could control the temperature from his phone. The man once paused a movie to lower the AC by 2 degrees like he was hacking into NORAD. I changed the password, then turned off the heat for 3 days straight in February, just long enough to be uncomfortable. Landon complained nonstop. My dad thought the app was glitching. I played dumb. Weird. Maybe try rebooting the router? Second, I started unplugging the basement sump pump, only during dry days, just enough to trigger the humidity alarm and freak Charles out. He'd stomp around down there like a paranoid goblin, blaming Landon for leaving the washer running or accusing the neighborhood kids of messing with the panel. Watching him mutter curses to himself while dripping sweat from crawling under the circuit board? Chef's kiss. But I wasn't just trying to annoy them. That would have been petty. I was building leverage. The real plan started with the mail. See, Charles was notoriously bad at reading the fine print, which is hilarious because he treated paying the bills like a full-time job, always grumbling about interest rates and tax brackets like we were running a Fortune 500 company from the kitchen table. What he didn't notice was that 6 months ago, I started photographing every bill that came addressed to Charles M. Whitaker, especially the ones with late fees, overdrafts, denied insurance claims. Turns out he'd refinanced the house 2 years ago without telling anyone. And not well. The new terms sucked. Adjustable rate, high risk. It was a ticking time bomb disguised as a strategic financial move. He was already late on one escrow payment, and another was coming due. And that's when I found the holy grail, a denial letter from the bank for refinancing. Not once, twice. His credit was tanking and he'd tried, unsuccessfully, to apply under Landon's name. He was that desperate, so I made copies. Digital, paper, USB, cloud. I even emailed a backup to myself titled, "For when Charles tries to gaslight me again." Then I waited. And as fate would have it, the spark I needed came faster than expected. It was a Sunday. I came home from work and found Landon in my room. Not just standing there, he was rifling through my drawer, holding a shoebox full of letters from my mom, who moved states away when I was 10, and flipping through them like they were trash. "What the hell are you doing?" I snapped. He didn't even flinch. "Looking for my hoodie. Thought maybe you stole it. Get the fuck out of my room." He smirked and tossed the box across the bed. Letters scattered everywhere. "Chill out, dude. God, you're always so sensitive." I shoved him. Hard. He tripped over my desk chair and landed against the wall with a loud thud. For 1 second, I thought maybe that would end it. Maybe he'd finally back off. Nope. He started screaming like I broke his ribs, yelling for my dad, making it sound like I was the aggressor. Charles came barreling down the hallway like a discount action hero. "What the hell's going on?" "He hit me," Landon whined, tears already welling up on command. "He attacked me in my sleep." "You were in my room," I shouted. "Enough," my dad barked, standing between us. "You don't live here anymore." I laughed, actually laughed. "You sure you can afford to make that decision right now?" He blinked. "What's that supposed to mean?" I walked past them both, opened the hall closet, and pulled out a manila envelope I'd prepped just in case, tossed it on the coffee table. "Open it." Charles flipped through the photocopies. First the mortgage, then the late payments, then the refinancing denials. His face went pale. "Where did you get this?" he asked, voice low. I smiled. "From your mail. You know, the stuff I've been sorting since I was 13 because you're too lazy to check the box yourself." "You had no right." "I had every right. You use me as a tenant without rights. Guess what? Tenants talk, especially to banks. And with that, I dropped the final piece. A printed draft of an anonymous complaint I'd written to the mortgage lender about questionable attempts to add unauthorized cosigners, including a minor. Charles looked like he'd been slapped. Landon went silent. I turned to leave. You can have the Civic. I hope you enjoy the drive to the courthouse. Because the real engine I'd been working on wasn't under that car hood. It was about to run right over his whole life. The eviction notice came 2 weeks later. Well, technically it was a pre-foreclosure notice, but the way Charles reacted, you'd think the sheriff had already padlocked the door and thrown his recliner onto the lawn. I wasn't there when he opened it. I heard about it from my friend Caleb, who lives 2 streets over and saw Charles pacing in the driveway like a man unglued. He was in his bathrobe, hair wild, shouting into his phone with a stack of papers in one hand and a can of warm Coors in the other. Landon was sitting on the front steps, glaring at his phone, still wearing my hoodie, which was funny in a tragic kind of way. The funny part? I didn't even have to report anything officially. The mortgage company flagged the account for audit after receiving that anonymous concerned party letter. Once they saw the attempt to co-sign under Landon's name without proper documentation, while simultaneously missing payments, they froze everything. Charles had 2 options: cough up $14,000 in back payments within 30 days or enter a remediation program, which would triple his monthly mortgage. Guess which one he couldn't afford? I could have ended it there. I really could have. Just let the slow financial bleed do its thing. But no, Charles made that impossible. He showed up at my job, like actually stormed into the grocery store where I work, red-faced and sweating through his polo shirt, yelling my name like a lunatic while customers stared in stunned silence. "You think this is funny?" he bellowed, slamming a crumpled paper on the counter. My manager had to pull me aside and ask if we needed to call security. I told him, no, it's just my dad having a tantrum because he lost his toy. Charles was practically vibrating with rage. "You sabotaged this family? You betrayed me? Do you understand what you've done?" I looked him dead in the eye and said, "You gave my car to your pet project because I wasn't family. So I returned the favor." That's when he lunged. Yep, full-on lunged across the counter at me. Didn't land a hit, but made a loud enough scene that security was called and he got escorted out while still shouting about betrayal and ungrateful bastards. I got sent home early, but my manager gave me a fist bump on the way out. That night, Charles sent me a text. No apology, no regret, just 5 words. "You've ruined everything." For what? And honestly, that's when it stopped feeling like payback and started feeling like closure. I wasn't done though. Not yet. Because the next day, I saw something that flipped a switch I didn't even know I had left. Landon, posting an Instagram story from inside my car, smiling like a kid who didn't just help destroy his own roof, captioned, "Some people are replaceable. Cars are not." So I did something I'd been sitting on for weeks. I printed out every photo of Landon wearing my clothes, sitting in my room, driving my car, using my stuff. Every time-stamped screenshot, every petty insult, and I compiled it all into one neat little Google Drive folder labeled Unauthorized Use of Tenant Property. Then I sent it, anonymously, to the homeowner's insurance provider, the mortgage company, and the HOA, and sat back to watch the world catch fire. Update 1. Okay, first of all, holy shit, I did not expect this to blow up like it did. I went to bed thinking maybe a few people would read my little petty revenge saga and laugh. Instead, I woke up to hundreds of comments, DMs, and a group chat my friend added me to titled, "Charles is F-offed." Let's address a few things. To the person who said, "This is the most emotionally justified financial terrorism I've ever read. You are my soulmate." I laughed so hard I choked on my coffee. Yes, I do still have the spare key to the Civic. It's hanging on my corkboard with a label that says, "Respect." Remember that? I haven't touched the car. Yet. But the irony of the bank contacting me about it? Poetic. Someone suggested I show up to Thanksgiving in a rented tow truck. Look, don't tempt me. Landon's Instagram is now private. But screenshots live forever, my dude. You posted a smirking selfie in stolen property. That's not clout, that's evidence. And now for the real tea. After the insurance company reviewed the documentation I anonymously sent, they flagged the policy for compliance irregularities. Apparently, a house registered under one primary adult with multiple undocumented occupants and property misuse is a problem. Who knew? Even better, Landon's coach pulled him from the starting lineup. Word got around about the mess at home, how he was involved in what's being called a hostile domestic event involving financial abuse. The coach apparently said, "I don't do drama on my team." Charles tried to email me, just a single line. "Is this really who you want to be?" Nah, Chuck. I wanted to be the son who got a car from his dad without being humiliated. You made me this version, and I'm just getting started. So here's the part where things got surgical. See, Charles loved pretending we were this happy, stable suburban household. He'd mow the lawn in those stupid white New Balance sneakers, wave to neighbors like a sitcom dad, and act like we were living in a Hallmark movie instead of walking on a mortgage tightrope. Appearances were everything to him. So I hit him where it hurt, the neighborhood. I waited until a Saturday morning, 10 a.m. sharp, prime nosy neighbor hour, and rolled up in a U-Haul. Parked it right in front of the house. Sat there with the engine idling and the ramp down while I made a show of carrying out 3 plastic tubs labeled Charles's Lies, Landon's Stolen Sut, and Unreturned Respect. Every neighbor peeked. Everyone. I saw Mrs. Klepper across the street watching from behind her curtain. Mr. Eng came out pretending to water his garden but aimed the hose at the sidewalk. I even waved at the Johnsons. They waved back, confused but curious. Then, right when I knew the whole street was aware, I taped something to the front door. A bright red letter, fake official looking, titled, Notice of Family Displacement Due to Fraudulent Behavior. It listed Charles and Landon by name, cited emotional embezzlement, car theft, violation of basic respect statutes, and finished with, filed by, the last honest member of this household. Yeah, it was theatrical. I don't regret a single word. I didn't even need to knock. Charles threw open the door like he'd been watching me the whole time. What the hell do you think you're doing? He hissed. I tilted my head. Oh, just letting the community know about your family values. Don't worry, no real eviction. Yet, Landon came up behind him. You're seriously doing this? You're pathetic. I looked him up and down. You drive a car you didn't earn, wear clothes you didn't buy, and live in a house your mom never wanted you in. Pathetic is your brand. Charles tried to slam the door. I stepped forward and caught it with my foot. You want it shut? I asked. Then tell me where the car title is. Right now. That's when Charles cracked. His eyes, wild, sweaty forehead, voice trembling not from fear, but fury that he wasn't in control anymore. It's mine, he spat. Legally and financially, you don't deserve it. And there it was. The truth, finally said out loud. Not even pretending anymore. You're right, I said. I don't deserve that car. I deserved a father. Then I stepped back, grabbed a stack of the flyers I'd printed, mini versions of the notice, and handed them out down the street as I walked back to the truck. Gave one to the Yangs. Left one on the Johnsons' mailbox. Slipped one under the windshield wiper of every car parked on the block. Petty? Sure, but strategic. By Monday, everyone knew. And Charles? He couldn't even walk the dog without getting side-eyed. Then came the final hit. I filed a police report. No, not for theft. That wouldn't stick. I filed for harassment. Detailed the incident at work. The screaming, the threats, the repeated, unwanted contact. I included photos of the damage Landon had done to my room. Keyed door, trash desk, my letters from my mom shredded and dumped in the trash. They didn't arrest him, but they did knock on his door. In uniform, during dinner, guess who posted on Facebook the next day about being targeted by a vindictive relative in the middle of a financial crisis? Yeah, that went viral in the local neighborhood group. Guess who commented? Mrs. Klepper. 3 words. Should have kept the car. The silence in that house must have been suffocating. I wasn't there to hear it, but I could feel it through the cracks. You know that cold, dead quiet that settles over a place right after someone's lost control and doesn't know how to get it back? That was Charles's kingdom now. Landon stopped posting. No more smirking selfies. No just a car bro captions. His account went dark. And Charles? He finally figured out that his mortgage company had started the process of accelerated foreclosure, which for those unfamiliar is bank speak for, we're done being polite, pay up or get out. Turns out, the HOA complaints, the neighborhood whispering, the anonymous drive folder, the frozen accounts, it all added up. And the lender decided this house was no longer a safe investment. That's when the gloves came off. I got a call from a restricted number. It was him, Charles. He didn't even say hello, just, do you think you've made your point? I didn't respond. You want us to lose the house? Is that what this is? You want me homeless? Still quiet. I'm your father, he snapped. And that's when something in me broke. Something that used to ache every time he said that word. You were my father, I said. Then you decided I wasn't your son. He hung up. 30 minutes later, I got a knock at the door. It was Landon. Eyes red. No smug grin. Hoodie up, sleeves pulled over his hands. He looked like someone who'd just figured out he wasn't bulletproof. I didn't know it would go this far, he mumbled. I didn't invite him in. You keyed my door. You tore up my letters, you stole my car and posted about it like it was a damn joke. I didn't think you'd actually do all this, he whispered. That's the difference between us, I said. You never think. You just take. And then, before I could close the door, he looked up and said something that actually froze me. He blames me for everything. He's been screaming at me all week. Said I ruined our future. I stared at him. And what? You want me to feel bad for you? No. Landon said, shaking his head. I just want to know how to survive him. And that's when it hit me. Landon wasn't some villain. He was a weapon, sharpened and pointed by Charles. He wasn't innocent, but he was a reflection of what Charles shaped. I didn't say anything, just shut the door gently. I didn't have the energy to hate him anymore, but I wasn't about to save him either. The next morning, I drove past the house, noticed a "For Sale by Owner" sign staked in the yard, handwritten, sloppy, desperate. I stopped, took a picture, sent it to the mortgage company, and then I finally opened that email I'd been ignoring. The one from the bank about the Civic. It was short, just said they'd flagged the vehicle due to unpaid property tax and a lien dispute. Asked if I still had possession. I typed out 2 words. I do. Because some things you don't give away. Not without consequences. Update 2. Okay, buckle up, because things escalated in the most satisfying way possible. First off, y'all are absolute menaces in the best way. Someone found the exact model of Civic I was talking about and offered to make a vinyl decal for the back that says, "Not Charles's." Tempting. Very tempting. Now for the fallout. So remember that "For Sale by Owner" sign? Turns out Charles didn't own enough of the house to legally sell it outright. That sign? Just a last-ditch bluff to scare the mortgage company, which only made things worse once they got wind of it. They accelerated the foreclosure. Last Thursday, a real notice went up. Bright orange, laminated, taped to the front door like a scarlet letter. Property to be auctioned for debt satisfaction. And yes, I did drive by. And yes, I did take a selfie with it. The bank repossessed the car for a day due to the lien issue. But after I provided receipts, screenshots, and the original title agreement, which I found in an old email, bless my paranoid little heart, they released it back to me. So guess who's got his Civic back? This guy. New tires, clean oil, and the seats don't smell like Landon's Axe body spray anymore. As for Charles, he called again, left a voicemail, just breathing for a few seconds, then said, "You've destroyed this family? Nah. You did that when you gave my keys to someone else and told me to earn my place. I just stopped pretending you were still holding the door open." Next part's coming, and yes, it involves the HOA, a neighborhood Facebook group, and a wedding invitation I never opened, until now. The envelope had been buried under a pile of old bills and coupons, tucked in the back corner of my desk drawer. I only found it while cleaning, after the Civic was officially back in my possession, and Charles's house wore that neon orange foreclosure notice like a scarlet letter for the whole neighborhood to see. It was cream-colored, thick cardstock, the kind that screams "pretentious event." Embossed return address, Whitaker Henderson Residence. I didn't recognize the name. Then it hit me. It was Landon's cousin's wedding. I'd been invited, back when Charles was still pretending we were a family. Before the Civic, before the betrayal, before the war. I opened it out of morbid curiosity. Inside was a note scribbled in Charles's handwriting. "You're expected to show up. Don't embarrass us." Funny how things age. I wasn't going to go. I had no reason to. But then I remembered something from earlier in this saga. Something small but satisfying. This wedding? It was at our country club, the one Charles used to brag about constantly, back when we were upper middle class, before the House of Cards fell. He wasn't a member anymore. Couldn't afford the dues, but the venue had been booked months ago, back when his credit hadn't yet burst into flames. He couldn't cancel without losing the deposit. So I RSV'd. I wore a black button-down, sleeves rolled, Civic keys hooked visibly on my belt loop. When I pulled into the lot, guess what was parked near the entrance? A sad little rental sedan. Charles's. The truck had been repossessed the week prior. I almost didn't go inside, almost left it at that. But then I saw Landon on the patio, laughing, surrounded by girls in matching dresses and groomsmen drinking expensive scotch. He looked untouched by it all, like he hadn't lost anything. Like my car, my room, my years didn't even register. That's when I made the call. Literally. I pulled out my phone and called a friend, Danny, who works admin at the HOA. She owed me a favor for helping her brother prep for his driver's test. I asked her to accidentally post a public notice about Charles's foreclosure and property code violations to the neighborhood's Facebook group that night. Took her less than 5 minutes. I watched it unfold in real time on my phone while sipping bad wedding punch. Comments exploded. Wait, Charles is losing the house? Didn't he say he was refinancing with equity? What's going to happen to Landon's scholarship? And then someone tagged Landon on his story while he was live streaming a toast. He saw it, froze, stumbled, and for one glorious second you could see it. The full weight of the fallout, hitting him right between the eyes. He walked off camera. Charles followed seconds later. I left before they could find me. But the best part? I didn't say a word, didn't confront, didn't gloat. I let the walls close in and I left the door open behind me. Because sometimes revenge isn't about shouting. It's about silence that echoes louder than any scream. and letting everyone else ask the questions for you. Charles is officially out. As of last Friday, the house is vacant. Windows dark, grass overgrown, a single sad trash bag sitting by the curb with a ripped pillow poking out of the top, probably one of Landon's. There's a bank-issued lockbox on the front door now. I drove by in the Civic just to make sure. It was poetic. Perfect even. No goodbye, no closure, just gone. I heard from Caleb, the neighbor who saw Charles lose it in his driveway, that the movers came on Tuesday. Said Charles looked thinner, older, like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. Landon wasn't there. Apparently, he moved in with a friend from the football team after their unbearable living situation made school impossible. Ironic. 1 year ago, I was the one they made feel unwelcome in that house. Now they couldn't give it away. But the final nail? That came in the form of a letter, not from Charles. From the bank. They sent me a courtesy update. Apparently, my earlier reports, photos, and documentation didn't just help them audit the mortgage. They've flagged Charles for insurance fraud, attempting to claim damages on items that weren't in his legal possession. Yeah, that'll do it. He's now being investigated, and his chances of buying another house anytime soon? Slim to none. But I didn't celebrate. Not right away. I parked the Civic outside my favorite overlook that night. This spot that sits high above the town, where you can see the lights blinking in quiet little rows. I just sat there with the engine off, windows down, keys in my lap, thought about all of it. About how I spent so long trying to prove I belonged to a man who never saw me as anything but an obligation. About how I gave him every chance. Stayed quiet through every slight. Let him chip away at me one insult at a time. Until he handed my future to someone else and told me I didn't deserve to be upset. And now? Now he gets to sit in some one-bedroom rental, filling out job applications with a flagged credit score and no car. Because the son he underestimated turned out to be the one thing he couldn't control. People say revenge doesn't fix things, and maybe it doesn't. But when I pulled into my new apartment's parking lot that night, with the Civic's engine purring, my lease in my name, and no one telling me what I was worth, I didn't feel broken. I felt free. Let Charles learn to respect what he's lost. I already did.